Hello, everyone. My name is Tan Jipeng, and I'm honored to share with you my research project titled The Impact of Deliberate Practice on the Psychological Aspects of Music Performance. This presentation is based on an exploratory mixed method study conducted over the past months. As a music study, as a music student and performer, I have personally experienced with both the transformative power and the emotional challenges of music practice and performance. This study grows from a curiosity to understand not just how musicians improved technically, but how practice influence our mental and emotional status. So let's begin by identifying the central research question that guides this study. How does deliberate practice influence the psychological status of musicians during performance? Although deliberate practice is well known for enhancing musical skill, its emotional and cognitive impact is less studied. What do musicians actually feel after engaging in months or years of structured training? Does practice boost confidence and focus? Or can it also generate pressures and anxiety? These are the questions this study aimed to explore. So to answer these questions, we need to define two essential concepts of this study. The first one is deliberate practice, a concept developed by Erickson, refers to highly structured activities specially designed to improve performance. It is effective, goal-oriented, requires feedback, and is not inherently enjoyable. Unlike routine or habitual practice, deliberate practice demands full concentration and is often guided by a teacher or mentor. It involves break down complex tasks into small pieces and parts and working on them systematically. On the other hand, music performance anxiety is a form of central anxiety that arises before, during, or public performance. It manifests across through domains, cognitively through negative thinking or fear of failure, or physiologically through symptoms like sweating, and rapid heartbeat, and behaviorally through avoidance or loss of control. Music performance anxiety affects both amateur and professional musicians and can severely impact performance qualities and mental well-being. So in reviewing the literature, I found extensive studies on both deliberate practice and MPA. Erickson's body of work has shown that expert performance in music, chess, and sport is a result of 10 or more years of deliberate training, not innate talent alone. Musicians who engage in focused feedback-driven practice over long periods constantly outperform their peers. Meanwhile, Meanwhile, music performance anxiety has been widely studied from psychological and educational perspectives. Kenny proposed a dimensional mode, suggesting that MPA is shaped by early learning experiences, perfectionism, and social evaluation. Other researchers like uh, Par Paragogy and Osbin has shown that musicians often feel more anxious in solo settings than in ensemble contexts, and that anxiety can increase with higher performance expectations. However, what is missing in the literature is an integrated view. How does deliberate practice interact with anxiety? Could a structured practice routine reduce anxiety by boosting preparation and confidence? Or could it increase anxiety by hastening self-expectations and fear of failure? So this gap in literature provides a strong rationale for my study. Given the limited research connecting these two areas, I adopt an exploratory mixed method approach. This allows both bodiness and depth, quantitative data to observe general patterns, and qualitative data to explore individual experiences. The quantitative components include an online questionnaire distributed to music studies and amateur performers. The qualitative components consist of semi-structured interview with a smaller subset of participants. Together, this method provided a complementary insights and allowed for triangulation. The aim here was not to test a rigid hypothesis, but to uncover emerging themes and suggest field research directions. Exploratory research is especially valuable in fields where questions are not being formed and where the interactions of variables is complex. So the questionnaire include 18 items divided into 4 domains. The first part is background information, such as primary instrument and performance experiences. The second domain is practice habits, such as setting goals or reviewing back, and so on. The third part is psychological states, such as confidence, anxiety, or focus during performing. The last part is the subjective perception of the impact of practice on the mental state of performance. Most questions use a 5-point Likert scale. For example, one item asked, I believe deliberate practice increased my confidence during performance. While another asked, the more I practice deliberately, the more pressure I feel to perform perfectly. These questions help to capture both the benefits and drawbacks of structured practice routines. I collect 45 valid responses, representing musicians across various skills levels and instruments and specializations. So this gave me a meaningful data set for trend analysis. this is the questionnaire form of my survey. As we can see, it's basically logical. And as for my interview design, the qualitative components consist of 5 in-depth interviews. Each interview lasts around 25 minutes and was conducted online. I selected participants from the questionnaire pool who expressed interest in further discussion. The interviews followed a semi-structured format, covering topics such as daily practice routines, emotional experiences, before and after performance, and reflections on the role of feedback and self-assessment. What makes interviews especially valuable was the opportunity to understand the context. For example, one participant shared how her confidence improved after implementing a verbalization techniques recommended by her teacher. Another described how extensive self-monitoring during practice led to mental fatigue and increased performance anxiety. So these are some interview screenshots of my work. So after my work, I found that the findings rival a nuanced relationship between deliberate practice and performance-related psychology. Positively, many participants reported that structured practice increased their sense of control and readiness, which is in turn boosted confidence and reduced anxiety. As why As one respondent said, when I know I have prepared with purpose, I walk on stage with a much calmer mind. However, some musicians also describe adverse effects, overemphasize on perfection, time pressure, and high self-demands sometimes turned practice into a source of psychological strain. As one participant noted, the more seriously I take preparation, the more I fear making a mistake in front of others and on the stage. A key takeaway is that the quality and mindset of practice, rather than quantity alone, determine its psychological impact. Goal clarity, health, self-talk, and realistic expectations makes differences between empowering and anxiety. Induce, induce practice routines. So what can we learn from this study? In my view, the first point is deliberate practice can be a double-edged sword when applied with awareness and emotional balance. It strengthens both technical and psychological readiness. But when rigid applied without flexibility, it can be contribute to pressure and burnout. Second, music educators should consider integrating psychological skills, training into practice process. Techniques such as visualization, breathing control, and reflective generally can help musicians process their emotions and develop resistance. Third, performers should be encouraged to individualize their routines. What works for one may not work for another, and awareness of one's psychological techniques is crucial. However, this study is not without limitations. The first limitation is the sample size. While sufficient for exploratory exercise, is too small to generalize across all populations. The participants were largely from similar educational contexts, limiting cultural diversity. Future research could expand to include cross-culture samples, longitudinal tracking of psychological changes over time, and perhaps even neuropsychological measures to better understand motion regulation during practice. In addition, further investigation is needed into the role of mentorship, peer influence, and institutional environment in shaping how practice is internalized. To include, this study suggests that deliberate practice does not just shape our fingers or vocal cords, it shapes our minds. By exploring how structured training influences confidence, anxiety, and focus, we can begin to design more human, effective, efficient, and emotional intelligent approaches to music education. So thank you so much for your attention. I look forward to your questions and feedback.